Well,
Does it just a little bit?
and with that character too in that movie, it was I think he was so focused on a goal, at least what I took away from it. He was so focused on a goal. I don't think he would have seen, he wasn't going to see anybody's flaws anyway, because he was like this.
Again, yeah. That's all part of his being blind. It's like, I have to do this. This is my thing. It's blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, wake up and smell the coffee. People are dying. Get the F out.
Yeah, his focus and determination, I think, is what made us as an audience sort of follow him, which is why I really, without spoiling, I really loved the ending of that one.
Me too. Me too. Now the ending is the original ending. I didn't mess with that. I loved that ending.
Yeah,
it was and I won't spoil it.
But it's like I watched the film and I really enjoyed it, and then still when it got to that ending, I thought it upgraded the film even more.
That was I remember when I got to the end, I was like, okay, now I really like it.
Yeah, that was a good one. Let's talk a little bit about your character in Fang, though. I mean, that must have been fun to do.
That's one of that, in so far in my career, that's definitely in my top 5, probably. He's because he's so ambiguous, I mean, you think, okay, he's weird, but he's not a bad guy. And then you're like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. And then you're like, wait a minute. And then it's like, wait a minute, is he even like human? What is this? He's a big giant question mark, which I love.
and as an audience, you kind of think, is he being funny? Am I supposed to laugh here? It kind of made the audience uncomfortable, which I really liked.
Good,
because you kind of don't know whether you're coming or going. You're kind of watching the film, and it's like, oh, this guy is odd.
Yeah. I am
supposed to laugh here. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's so funny because that movie, people react to it differently a lot of times. I know when we were filming the dinner scene, and I won't give anything away, I ruined a take because I just started laughing because I thought it was so hilarious. I just could not contain myself, and it's all Melantha's fault. She plays Doris. I just thought she was hilarious because all of these characters seem so real, and then they show up in this house where these characters are so not real. They're so over the top and bizarre. It's like they came out of like the creakiest horror film, scary house ever. And so it's so over the top, and anyway. Well, some people watch that scene and they're like, "This is the grossest, most disgusting thing. I'm repulsed," and I'm like, "Okay." I think it's hilarious.
I loved it because it was reminiscent of the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre for me. I mean, I
love that.
That was when I was sitting there watching it. I was looking. I was going, okay. Yeah, this is like wrong on every level, but I love it because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I watched the original Texas Chainsaw for the first time, it was one of those, I
think most people kind of watch that with their jaw dropped, like
the 13-year-old.
I mean, that's
watching that, but then obviously the more times you watch it, you start you're getting into it in a different way, and that's what I thought was cool about that dinner scene with you guys was the fact that I was like, oh, this is like Texas Chainsaw shit right here, man. This is good. I like this. Where's it gonna Oh,
Yeah.
look at where it went, kind of thing.
I think it was meant to be, even if on a subliminal level. I think it was meant to be a subconscious level, I should say.
Absolutely. No, I'm trying
Because
to
of
remember.
the tagline for the film is "Meet the Family," and that straight away took me to Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, and that scene is very, very. What's the word I want? It's kind of a Valentine to that in a way.
Yeah, sort of an homage, I guess. Yeah. The thing is, we had Adam here on the show a few weeks ago, and
good show.
And one of the things he said that when he and Kristen decided to make Fang, they wanted to make one that would gross people out, and I was like, well, mission accomplished.
Right. I'll never forget when he said, "Oh, look," because he would show me, because being a fellow filmmaker, he would like show me things ahead of time, little clips and stuff. He goes, "Look at this. This is how I'm going to start the film," and I was like, "That's how you're going to start the film?" Okay. I said, "Well, you just lost some of your audience right there."
And gained some others.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, Fang is a good one, because you also made the Horrific Evil Monsters with Adam.
Yeah.
And there you played also an interesting. He writes really good characters for you. There you were a famine.
He kind of wrote Famine with me in mind. I think after seeing what I did with Harold in Fang, he was like, "I want you to play Famine." Okay. He said, "I want you to audition." He doesn't give it up. He goes, "I want you to audition for Famine." Okay, so he gave me some. I think he gave me some sides, or did I just improvise something? I can't remember. But yeah, so I gave him my take of how I would play it, which is pretty much what ended up in the film. And he was like, "Yeah, okay, we're done."
Yeah, I'd like you to audition for a role I pretty much wrote with you in mind.
Well, just in case I was really, really bad. You got to have an out. You need an escape clause.
Absolutely. So that was an interesting one. That was probably like also a great set, although that I don't know, maybe the pressure level might have been a bit higher there, with especially that street scene. So many people, and
that's my favorite part of that movie.
Interestingly, as only an actor on that set, I probably was not aware of how many problems there may have been, or you were talking about how difficult it would be. I'm not aware of that. I know that he was very happy. I mean, he had a good crew. He had really great background actors, super attentive and follow direction, and so I mean, it felt to me like it was a good experience, more or less. We had some wind issues, and we had there was one camera scene that just didn't even end up in the film. I can't even remember why. I think it just didn't work the way Adam wanted it to work or something. But otherwise, I don't remember that being any more difficult than you would imagine a scene of that scope being. We had a very difficult time in the valley.
The Tomb of Osiris, yeah.
Yes, I mean, it was very treacherous to get down into it. But they had, people escorting people and blah, 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 so that it was as safe as it could be. But then it started raining, and I mean, it started to pour. So we had to stop for the day and pack up, which meant the next day we came back, we had to shoot basically 2 days worth of stuff in one day, which is nobody wants to do. But Adam came in that day pretty prepared. He had made some cuts, and he kind of knew what he needed to get, and we got it all. So,
So the day it rained was the same day that 2 generators went out. Adam
Yeah,
was telling us all about that.
it was a horrifying day. I was thinking,
Oh,
I've had a lot of awful things happen Deadly Revisions had a generator. We had a generator issue of sorts. We had we had the hottest day ever recorded in Los Angeles, and we were shooting in a shed in a canyon. So, every film has its difficulties, but yeah, the day that the generator died and the backup generator died, and then it started raining, I think that's the winner.
Which you just reminded me of, but that location for Deadly Revisions, that house, that has a bit of history to it, no?
Oh, great history. Yeah, it was discovered for Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, and was used for that. And it's been used for a billion movies ever. Eraser, I can't even think of all of them, but constantly. And our film, so Friday the 13th, Part 4, that was the first film to film there with the original owners, because he sort of had it built for him and his wife. And we were the last. It's still there, but it has new owners. So we kind of ended a legacy of sorts. So that's kind of a little feather in our Deadly Revisions cap.
Historical significance.
People often will say, "Hey, that's the house from," and I'm like, "Yeah." We were lucky we got that location.
I'd say, yeah, that was a great location.
Yeah.
It's it being secluded can be good and bad, but yeah, you wouldn't have had much interference.
Again, as I said, you never know, and you never know what to prepare for. When we scouted the location, it was quiet as could be, leaves in the breeze. That was it. When we were filming, you could, for whatever reason, the way the wind was blowing, you could hear traffic from the one road that, I was like, I'm hearing trucks. How is this happening? Amazing.
Or was it the ghosts of trucks?
It was trucks. Yeah, it was crazy.
Nice.
But my sound designer fixed all that, thank God. That's why sound is so important.
Oh, yeah. But Murphy's Law, yeah. It'll take some kind of a part in every production, I think.
Every production. Like I said, it's one of those things the distributor that gives you a problem, or the festival director that you find out you don't like. It's like there's always going to be stuff, and it's going to happen every step of the way. Production, post-production, somebody, a file gets lost. And we got a file got lost for Deadly Revisions. Oh my gosh, we finally found it. But I was like, that's why you have 18 backups.
Yeah. I've had that happen. What the hell is it doing here?
Yeah. I think Garden Party Massacre had something get lost once. And I was just like, no, not again. How are these things getting lost? Where's the backup? So, yeah, it's fun.
Oh, Todd, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic back on.
There you are.
Yep.
Oh, were you talking?
I was. It's all good. It's all good. No, I when you're talking about losing things, my son's editing our latest feature, and it's his first time editing a
cheap labor.
And we both own our own video production companies, and he lives in California. I live here in Colorado.
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I know. But it was just one of those things. He got a hold of. He's like, Dad, I need you to call me right now. He's in the middle of editing. And I said, yeah, what's up? And he's like, dude, what happened to that shot that we had that it was at the table, and it was the dealer's reaction. It was this, and this. And I'm like, it should be in that folder. No, it's not. And so I'm going in and I'm looking in the folder, and I'm like, okay. And I found it. It was right there. It didn't get lost, but that feeling of holy shit, what do you mean that's not there? You get that where your body just feels like it just like drops 10 feet and the color's starting to come out of your face. And because it's not like the old days where you could just go back, that you could go back to a tape, to do that. Now it's like, I try to hold on after, I don't know about you guys, but I try to hold on to footage on the cards if I can afford to do that. Not only backing it up on 3 different drives, but then also keeping the footage on the cards in the case that maybe that clip did not get drug over to the hard drive. That is probably the only thing about this awesome technology that I just really, really have a problem with, is the fact that
the only thing.
well, I mean, as far as like the footage goes, having when you go to delete stuff or clean off your cards, you're going into you're looking, even though you've seen it 100 times, or maybe you even edited that part, but you're going in and making sure that before you delete the stuff on the card that you're looking in the folders. Okay, it's in that one. Okay, it's on that drive. Okay, it's in that drive too. It's on that drive. Okay, I can delete that now. Yeah. And then you still having a panic attack that you might lose your footage. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just always my fear. So at the beginning, before we started rolling, Gregory brought up, or Itai brought up, that Gregory does not like to be called Greg. So
apparently there's a story behind this.
Yeah, he said there's a story that he wanted to talk about, and I figured this would probably be a good time to bring it up.
Well, on my birth certificate, it's Gregory, but who cares? The real reason that I think it is important and that I find it valuable is that when you're on a set, especially the larger the set gets, there can be 7 Gregs. And so it is so much easier for me as an actor, probably for everybody, to be Gregory. Then if I hear Greg, because people, sometimes people are on their walkies and it's quite, but still, you're going to hear somebody's going to yell out Greg and 8 people turn around. And, maybe I really need to be focused on what I'm focused on in that moment. Maybe it's makeup. Maybe I'm working with the director one-on-one. I don't need that distraction. So if I hear Gregory, I know they need me, and it must be an emergency. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's the value and the benefit of it, and I've just gotten used to that. And so I just tell everybody, use Gregory, and no one will confuse me with any other Greg on set.
There you go.
Or better yet, instead of shortening it to the first half, go the second half and go by Gory.
Gory. Yeah, too many people have trouble with that. Although I do kind of like it on a horror film set.
That's what I'm saying.
No, Gory.
That's good.
Like those Christophers who like to go by Topher now.
Right. Well, and that's good, because how many Tophers are on set?
Well, more than there used to be now.
More than there used to be, but right. I mean, and even Christopher is good. It's better than Chris, because guarantee you there's a whole handful of Chris's on every set.
I have to say, with my name, I don't have that problem.
Right. See, there you go.
Unless I'm on an Israeli set, that can happen. It's a fairly common name there, so.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why Gregory. Just so it's easy. It's easier for everybody knows everybody knows it's me when they refer to me.
I thought it was going to be something juicy about someone called Greg that you don't like. But
no, sorry. It's really more a really good logistical
All right,
reason.
that's it. We have to end the interview here.
That was so boring and disappointing. I've ruined the whole episode.
All right, that's
not even close. Yeah. But it's a good time to go back to something you mentioned earlier as well. That once the pandemic kicked in, all these roles started happening as far as the acting part, and it's, in the last couple of years, you've had quite a few. I've been seeing all these credits pop up. It's like, what? Another one for Gregory? Another one? What's happening there? When do you find the time?
Everything, certainly, it's very true with acting, and sometimes it's true with writing, although it's different for writing, and I'll tell you why. With acting, it's very much a case of when it rains, it pours. You'll be like, ooh, everybody wants me. I'm getting all these auditions, and I'm getting called back, and I'm getting booked. And then there are times when you're like, nobody loves me, and you're just like, hello, I'm not dead yet. What, this is how it is. So yeah, I've had a good run with acting stuff. The reason that's so knife in the chest when you're not getting the attention or the roles or anything is because as an actor, there's nothing you can do about it. You are beholden to being picked to be on set, and that's when you get to act. If you're not on set, you're not acting. Yeah, you can be going to class and other stuff, and
auditioning.
You can be auditioning if you get auditions. So, but it's very much out of your control. Whereas with writing, as long as your fingers are working, and even if they're not, you have a speech, whatever it's called, interpreter thing, you can be writing every day and creating product. Now, maybe it's not, for a particular producer, maybe it's a spec, but so what? You are able to be creative and productive every single day as a writer, even if you don't have a job and you're not being hired at that moment. That's one of the joys, if you will, about being a writer that you don't have as an actor. As an actor, you just sit there eating Haagen-Dazs and crying,
And in some situations, you can actually write roles,
Yes, I can write. I don't usually do that, though, although sometimes it happens. It happened with Beasts of the Field. It happened accidentally, sort of, with Craving. I say accidentally because I rewrote that script with Jason. Way before we were even talking about anyone was talking about casting, pretty much. But then we started talking a little bit about that because he had some producers and he knew he wanted to do some crowdfunding and blah blah blah. And I said, well, listen, keep me in mind for something. And so he said, well, there's a role or two I was thinking about. And so we talked about those options. And anyway, so that's how that happened. But it was completely after the fact, or mostly after the fact.
Still helps when you are extra familiar with the character.
Yes. Interesting fun fact about the character that I play in that, Travis. Originally, there were two characters that were sort of not yin and yang, more like Chip and Dale. They were sort of like, a duo of dorks, kind of. Anyway, we ended up cutting the second character and sort of turning it all into Travis. So that's how that happened.
It's because you have so much character that you don't need two actors for that.
There you go. Yeah, that's what it was. No, originally it was because I think we were talking about budgetary concerns. What characters should we keep? What characters could we cut? And I was like, well, these two guys are kind of funny, but really, you only need one of them, narratively speaking, I thought. Because he plays off some of the other characters, or one of them did at any rate. So that it was more of a budgetary reason why we ended up cutting it. Otherwise, he could have filmed me in split screen. There could have been two of me. We could have been twins.
And that crowdfunding went really well, and it's in post-production now, yeah?
Yep. Yeah. And, I'm not the biggest fan of crowdfunding for a variety of reasons, but that was a very successful campaign. And we shot the film earlier this year, and it's in post-production and probably be done soon. I shouldn't probably say that. Jason's probably going, soon? What? Maybe I should
Soonish. I
say
always say
editing.
soonish.
But he's like a one-man band. He can edit, and I think he's going to probably sound design. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to shut up. Before I dig myself further into that.
Yeah, no, I followed that campaign, that crowdfunding campaign a lot, because I contributed to it and I promoted it on my indie under your page there, and it just looked like it was a really good team.
Great team.
Yeah,
great team.
Everybody chipped in as well in promoting it, which was good to see. A lot of the time you see directors putting up crowdfunding campaign, and in the end you just figure out that they were kind of left alone by everybody else. Nobody's promoting it but them.
Well, that's
you need
one
a team.
Of the many things about crowdfunding that can be problematic and difficult is that they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere, and everyone's doing them. And how do you compete with that? That's a big part of it. Getting your cast and crew and people. I mean, if you're, depending on where you are at that point, if you have the cast and the crew, getting them to support it and post it and whatnot. Now, I know some directors who put that in their contracts now. If you sign on to this film, we are doing a crowdfunding campaign and you will post about it once a week or whatever. You know what I mean? And, okay. I got nothing wrong with that. I'd rather be involved when I can in films that don't need crowdfunding.
Well, we all would.
We all would, right? So, but it is what it is, and it's here to stay. So,
in India, it's a necessary evil, so to speak. Yeah.
I think one of the things that is Jason pointed out to me that I thought was very perspicacious is that it's not just about making money to help you make your film, which of course is like the prime goal, but it's also about marketing and getting the word out. If you get enough people to share the campaign, then people are learning about your film, whether they donate or not. Right. So, I mean, there's that element to it, that whole publicity marketing element that can be a win for you, even if you don't make as much money as you're hoping to make. So, I think there's good and there's bad.
Crowdfunding helps in that department as well, because it's not an investment that you have to pay back.
Right.
People get their perks, and then it's a little bit easier to get your budget back, so to speak.
Yes. I mean, I've done crowdfunding, so I'm not. Yeah. I don't mean to poo-poo it and say don't do it. Ooh, I'm just saying if you're going to do it wisely. Read up on how to do it, or watch videos about the best ways to do it. Look at campaigns that were successful and try to figure out how and why they were. Really, and remind yourself it's not just about making money. Don't just keep nudging people. Come on, $5. Just put out there something new and interesting that's related to your film, and then and by the way, plunk the link in or whatever. Keep people engaged in you as a filmmaker, and as a content creator. And then the crowdfunding campaign is just a part of your current existence, as opposed to the only thing you post 27 times a day. You know what I mean?
Well, that's something that Jason did really well. He got the let's call it the community involved. He asked people what they wanted to see in a crowdfunding campaign, what perks they prefer and why, and created this conversation that I think a lot of the people who engaged eventually also contributed. So it works in that way as well, and it helps you put up a lot more efficient campaign.
Absolutely.
So that was good to follow and to see it happen, and I got involved and engaged in it myself, just to to have that feeling of as an audience member, let's say, or a contributor or whatever. So it works. You feel like you're a part of the process, and like your opinion matters, which is important, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's a big part of it, is that people feel invested emotionally. I think that's what it is. You get invested emotionally. You either really, really, really want to see that film made, or you really, really, really want to see that filmmaker succeed, or whatever it is. That's the goal. That's the win, because then they're going to want to see all your films. If they're invested in you, then suddenly,
Yeah, they might contribute to the next one, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe this is not the year for them to, $5 is a big deal sometimes to some people.
True.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But next year,
Todd and I discussed this quite a few times, about crowdfunding, and it's like, how do you feel about it? And I always say, I hate it, but I'm sure I'm going to do it again and again, probably.
Yeah. When you don't have any other resource options, you are unable to get traditional investors. You're having trouble finding corporate sponsors. All of the other options that exist out there. Crowdfunding is, it's an option.
Well, it gives you that independence as well. If you can successfully crowdfund, it works the other way as well. So you might not need, private investors, which means, again, you don't have somebody breathing down your neck, for when am I going to see my return?
Well, yes, but at the same time, any investor knows that you should have given them in the prospectus a timeline, so that they're not bugging you for, they know it's going to take a year and a half to make the movie or whatever, so they should know that. And every investor also knows that there's risk, and they're hoping, based on,
you would think they do.
Yeah, based on the genre, let's say, or you as a filmmaker and your following, maybe, or however you sold it in your prospectus, they've weighed that risk and they feel like it's a good risk to take. But it's like every risk, like the stock market. You may win, you may not.
Yeah. No, I still feel it's a little bit of pressure on the filmmaker, which gets eliminated if you do it through crowdfunding, again, successfully, which is a huge stress as well. It's just a matter of when do you want your stress? You want it before or you want it after?
Right. I mean, I think the stress is the same. It's just a question of, in both cases, I think if you deliver people their perks on a crowdfunding campaign, but while that's what they signed up for, or the quote what they paid for, they really want to see the film. Now, I would say 99% of them want to see the film and want it to be good. So if you put out a film that they're not happy with, they're probably not going to do your next crowdfunding because you disappointed them. I think that's exactly the same as if you have traditional investors and you don't, they don't get a good return, they're probably not going to be an investor again on your next film.
Absolutely.
So it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just one is traditional and one is, well, I don't know, crowdfunding is pretty traditional by now, but you know what I'm saying. It's still kind of an alternative because it's as you say, it's not. You don't have to pay anything back once you've paid out for the perk, whatever it is, and delivered that.
Yeah, with all its sort of positives and negatives, it's still a viable option. That's a good thing.
Oh, of course it is. That's why there are filmmakers who are repeat crowdfunders. They just do it over and over and over because every time they're successful at it. Well, if every time you're successful at something, why
keep it going?
Why stop doing it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about some of your upcoming projects. We talked about Craving. What else do you have coming up that you're excited about?
16 Bits is coming soon, no?
From what I understand, yes, that should be coming soon. That's Aaron Mento film.
That looks like a crazy one.
Yeah, he did Ugly Sweater Party. Well, he's done several films, but Ugly Sweater Party is the other one of his that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And I have actually a very tiny role in 16 Bits. It's like I come in for one scene, but it's pretty hilarious. And
memorable.
What?
Memorable
yes.
scene.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Everyone will remember what happens, without a doubt. There's a short film called Favorite Son, which is an LGBTQIA. I forgot any letters. I'm sorry. Related film about twins. And I play a bad guy. Surprise, surprise.
Is that the one with the beard?
That's the one. What am I wearing? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one with the weird sort of goatee, the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm looking at the poster. That doesn't look horrible. That's good.
it's just different. It's different.
I hope he puts that on the poster. It didn't look horrible.
Yeah, the beard doesn't look too bad.
Oh no! I didn't mean that the beard looked bad. Did I? Is that what it sounded like I said?
Well, you were
I kind of liked it, but no, I just too much maintenance. That kind of a stylized beard. Anyway,
the funny thing is, as soon as I saw you in the beard, I was like, okay, he's playing a bad guy.
Because it's an instant read. Stupid, of course. It's completely idiotic. But if somebody's in black or has a beard, or especially a goatee, facial hair in general, bad guy. Bald, bad guy. Sorry.
I agree.
So yeah, I did that. Plus, none of the other actors had facial hair, so I wanted to, just not. We were all, white dudes, so I wanted some variety there. Anyway, yeah, so that's a murder-ish mystery, maybe is a better... It's a thriller. Leave it at that.
Something to do with twin brothers?
Twin brothers, yes. And yeah, not everybody survives. Then I have Family Man, which is supposed to come out.
Hashtag Family Man.
Hashtag Family Man. Yeah, because there are several films now out that are called Family Man. So he put the hashtag in there because, that's very hip. Whatever. And I'm even worse in that movie. I am the lead villain, and I am the most reprehensible human character I've probably ever played. He is a
mayor.
What?
You're a mayor in it or something? Politician, a mayor?
Yes, I'm the mayor. But he's also a spouse abuser. He abuses his child. He's an alcoholic. He's hit and run. Blackmail. There's just not a lot this guy doesn't do. He's pretty awful.
I'm noticing a pattern. Gregory is getting typecast.
Well, that's why, in Craving, I'm not a bad guy. I'm a nice guy in Craving. So that was a nice change of pace. Because then another film that's coming out where I'm also horrible is a film called Trick and Treats, which has been a long time coming, but supposedly is almost done. And that's about a bunch of young ladies. Well, there's a guy too at the beginning, at any rate, who walk into the wrong bar on Halloween night, and bad stuff happens. And yeah, I play another completely reprehensible human being in that. And I also have facial hair in that. Yep, I have like a soul patch and sideburns and stuff. So that's how you know I'm a good guy, is when I have no facial hair. If you see facial hair, I'm a bad guy.
What about Amber Road? Are you good or bad in that one?
I'm a nice guy. I have no facial hair in that. Yeah, I have a really nice, sweet scene with Alyssa Dowling. And yeah, I don't know how many people in that movie are nice, though. It's a really dark movie and, you know, brutal kind of torture porny kind of thing. But I'm a nice guy, so.
Yeah, because it just released a sort of a teaser trailer, I guess.
Yeah.
Everybody looked kind of despicable in that.
Yeah. So.
And a few bigger names in that one as well.
Yes, there are a few names in that. Trying to.
It's also been doing well in festivals of late, I think.
Yeah, it just won a bunch of awards at Vegas Film Festival in Vegas, and then it's having its big premiere at the Culver City Film Festival. I'm going to go to that, show up, and support, and all that. So I think those are most of the films that will be coming out, that I've done that will be coming out.
But the big one that I would assume you would be more excited to talk about is Angels in America.
Oh, well, but that's not coming out.
No, but I mean about the fact it's not a film, so.
No, right. But, well, they did make that televised miniseries out of it. But so that was a play that was always on my bucket list. For anyone who doesn't know it, it's a 7.5-hour play broken up into 2 evenings, two plays basically, and each play is like 3.5 hours or something. So it's quite something both to be in and to sit through. But it's pretty staggering entertainment. And when it first came out, 26 years ago, I wanted to play, of course, one of the younger characters. Didn't happen for whatever reason. But when this came about, a friend of mine was cast as Belize. And he said, he hit me up and he said, I'm going to be in Angels in America, and I think you would be perfect as Roy Cohn. I'm going to suggest you talk to the director because I don't think he's cast it yet. So I hit the director up and I said, so I'm friends with Michael. He told me about this play. I think I'd be a good Roy Cohn if you're looking still, whatever. He came back like the next day. He was like, ooh, I agree. Let's have you audition. So I did a, what do you call it? I think I did a self-tape.
Self-tape, a recorded audition.
I think I did a self-tape for that. But then we did auditions, through Skype or Zoom or whatever it was. So kind of live, kind of not, Anyway, long story short, I got cast. And so bucket list roll, done.
You're playing Roy Cohn. That is...
another horrible, reprehensible, awful, evil human being.
But that's cool. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
The last guy to play Roy Cohn well was James Woods.
Yes.
That HBO original film that they did about him back in 91, I think it was.
Sounds about right.
Wasn't that the miniseries?
No. It was Al Pacino in the miniseries.
Al Pacino in the miniseries. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Frank Langella's played him. I mean, there's so many great, well, Nathan Lane more recently. So many brilliant actors have played it. that, you know, it's kind of a little scary to step into a role that's been played by so many famous actors and have played it so well. But I was like, screw it, I'm doing it.
Well,
because, you know, it isn't.
I looked at you and I went, oh, fuck. He looks like Roy Cohn, too.
Yeah, and the
especially
language.
especially the James Woods version, I'd say. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. It's such great writing. I mean, the whole play is, but that particular character has such a use of language, and he's remarkably funny in spite of being as awful as he. I mean, some of what's funny about him is how awful he is to people, you know, in a dark kind of humorous way.
Right.
And then he can turn, and then there's a scene where there's nothing funny. It's just hateful and horrifying, and then, you know, the kudos to, you know, the writer. By the end of the play, it's you know, it's that whole almost full circle twist, because the play begins with him like at the top of his power, and he is the king, you know, and at the end of the play he's like at the bottom of the food chain, kind of, you know, and dying. Spoiler.
Where he belongs.
Yeah, and so one of my goals was to see if I could make people sympathize with him, because I think the writing indicates that. You know, there's a character who says something about, after he's dead, says he was an awful, awful human, horrible human being, something like that. But that was a horrible, horrible disease, and nobody deserves that kind of death. Because it was at that day, when they didn't have any medication for HIV and people dying of AIDS, they were violent, awful, horrible deaths sometimes. And they depict that in the play. And so, you know, to make somebody feel sorry in any way for Roy Cohn, I think is a pretty spectacular, pretty daring of the writing, and hopefully I did it. I know one person said, oh my God, I was in tears for a minute, and then I was like, wait, this is Roy Cohn. And I was like...
Well, it's kind of one of those things, though. I mean, especially back then, you know, I don't know how old you are, Gregory. I'm 57.
I'm old. It's been 87 years.
But I just remember, you know, that time, you know, and it's like I remember hearing somebody say you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy, you know, and it's so to hear that they're with that play that they did
go there
is, you know, and it's commendable on that, you know, regardless, you know, how despicable some people can be. At the same time, you know, it's one of those things that when something happens like that happened to Roy Cohn, it's kind of one of those things you're like, yeah, that was a bad time, man. That was a bad time. Another good movie that if you guys want to check out, if you haven't ever seen it, it's another HBO original. It's called And the Band Played On.
Oh yeah, Matthew Modine, right?
Oh, God, yeah. That's you know, for anybody watching, go check that out. It's on HBO Max, and it's available on Amazon. It's just one of those movies that when it's over, you're just like, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you walk on politically. It's just one of those movies at the end, you're just like, wow, are you kidding me? You know?
Well, yeah, it's because it really depicts the reality to a large degree of what that period of history was like for people.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
I think that's what's important about these kinds of pieces of art
Mhm.
is they do give us a window into a time which, especially if you didn't live then, if you
Mhm.
weren't alive then, you can look at that and say, oh, that's what that was about. I mean, this is why, it was so, when COVID first started coming out and people were getting sick and no one knew how bad it was, how fast it could transmit, how it was transmitted, and all that scariness. Anyone who was alive in the 80s, it was like reliving that kind of thing. Did you get a sense of that at all? I sort of heard a lot of talk about that from people who had lived through both.
I kind of felt it in a sense, but I'm not even going to go there, because in my opinion, COVID and AIDS were they're night and day.
Oh, they are absolutely night and day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. For me personally, there was a lot of other factors that I think people weren't taking into consideration at that point. But I mean, in regards to the, the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, that literally they had no idea. I mean, there were, I don't know. I think to compare the two, maybe to some people it was really scary. I just remember, though, back in the late 80s when it all started, that I was a DJ in a nightclub at that time, and so it was one of those things that you saw, even as a business, you saw your business go down. The amount of people that were going out, the amount of people that were drinking themselves into a coma. I was still doing that at that time, but there was a lot of people that all of a sudden it was just like, no, I'm not going to go there. No, I'm not going to go out. No, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to hug that person. No, I'm not going to, it was,
right.
It was, I don't know. I feel like it was a lot worse. I mean, there's remnants of it with COVID, but not to the extent, because I mean, I lived in LA for 30 years. And so I lived there during that whole thing. So that was scary, because that was taking something that a lot of people were having fun with. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, what do you mean I can't have sex?
Right.
Yeah. But Todd, you're also talking about that earlier time with AIDS and HIV, when people didn't really know, how it's transferable exactly. And all the rest of it. Yeah, exactly. That was a strange time, because people did sort of keep away from each other just in case.
Sure.
And there were like, and people started all these rumors, like, you can catch it by kissing someone, by hugging someone,
toilet seats, blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Yeah. That time, I agree, but I think after that time, when we got a little bit more education, let's call it, about how it's transferable, it became less scary, because you knew how you could avoid it, if you don't do the things you need to do, if you
right. That's sort of where that was the birth of safe sex, that phrase, basically.
Yeah. And then with COVID, it's a bit different, because you almost couldn't avoid it if you were out or around people. People are still weirded out when I tell them that I never had it. They're like, "What? You never caught it?" I'm like, "No, I kept away from people." But yeah, with AIDS and HIV, I remember that initially the thing that struck me most was that nobody cared about it until celebrities started getting it, and I was like,
that was something that really Well, they didn't care about it until Rock Hudson had it, and then
he was the first big I remember that.
And then everybody gave a shit when Ryan White got it, the little kid.
The kid.
So that
which was indicative, amazingly, at that point in time, because it was mostly affecting gay men and Africans in Africa.
Right.
And I think that says something about America and in terms of the homophobia and the racism. It's like, they're not our people. Why do we care? Which I think connects with the whole Roy Cohn dying thing. I think if you don't have empathy for all people, there's a problem there. When it comes to something like health, if you don't have empathy when it comes to health, you're missing a humanity chip or something.
I still remember that there was one. I can't remember who the stand-up comedian was, but that line, I never forgot it. That he kept saying, the politician. I think it was Dennis Leary, and he was saying that the politicians were saying, so only gays and Africans get it. Well, they shouldn't have that lifestyle. And it's like, what? You can also catch it from prostitutes? Something should be done about this, And I was like, okay.
That was I remember that.
There you go.
Yeah, remember that. Yeah.
Anyways, I think just to get us back to filmmaking, I think the point of this is great art opens up a window to people maybe who are not like you and lets you hopefully use your empathy to understand them and learn something about them and hopefully about yourself.
As strange as it sounds, especially the Rock Hudson thing was like, it's not a positive, but the positives that came out of it was that people, first of all, realized that big, handsome, men who were considered to be, loved by women everywhere can also be gay. And also that, it brought it to people's attention as far as HIV, AIDS, and also homosexuality. I think that was the start where it sort of became, a little bit more acceptable and safe sex. And today it's like,
because we had to talk about it, right? You had to talk about it because there was no way around. You couldn't pussyfoot around the issue. These people are dying, and this is why, and we need to talk about it.
Right.
And Angels in America and the band Played On were two major players in continuing that and getting it into sort of public attention. And I remember when those, I'm going to say films, even though one wasn't at the time, but when they came out, they were like TV movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall either one of them having a cinematic release. And I remember an interview, someone was asked about it, and they said that they didn't think people would feel comfortable going to the cinema to see these films.
Well, they're both also long. They were miniseries.
Yeah.
Because, we're talking about editing and trying to keep things short. There are times when that is not, you can't do that. There was, and the band Played On, if I remember, was a really fat book. It was like over 1,000 pages, I think. So editing that down to even a miniseries must have been difficult.
That was just a movie. That was a 2-hour and
it was just a movie?
Yeah.
How long was it? How long was it, Tom?
It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh, I thought it was like 2.5, but I remember it being long. But it was a movie. And when Angels in America came out, I remember I eventually got my hands on it on DVD and it was like a 2-disc set.
Right,
They
because it
couldn't
was a
fit it on one.
miniseries.
Yeah.
Yeah. They broke it up. I don't know if I think they broke it up into 4 parts. I don't remember exactly. But
It was,
I was shy.
Short.
I was shy 10 minutes. It was 2 hours and 21 minutes.
So
You're
right in the middle
fired.
between what I thought. Yeah.
Fine.
But again, yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about before. If your runtime is earned, you can be as long as you want.
Yep.
As long as you need.
But yeah, everything we talked about now definitely explains why, Angels in America was on your bucket list.
Yeah.
Tick.
I know, really. It's like, okay, what's next?
Are you still doing more shows, or
not at the moment. That was my show for this year. I have other bucket list roles, and if productions of any of those plays pop up, I'll audition.
That is cool. How do you feel about the difference between stage plays and film as an actor?
Well, they're very different in how you approach what you do. Obviously, theater needs to be bigger, especially, and it depends on the size of the theater. We did Angels in America which when I first heard we were doing it this way, I was like, because it's not my thing, in the round. So it was a small space because, you can't do theater in the round too big, I don't think. And it's a very intimate show ultimately. And so I thought it worked. And I don't think I would ever want to do it any other way, having done it now, because having people everywhere, suddenly you can use the stage in a way that as an actor you just can't do when you're stuck with a proscenium. So that's a lesson I learned. So you learn no matter what you do.
The more you know.
Yeah. So what was the question? I was trying to answer. Oh, the difference between film and stage. Right. So size is one thing. Probably the biggest thing, because when a camera is this close, you can't be doing things like that. It's unless you're being, Art the Clown. You have to keep it somewhat on some sort of level that looks real and believable and manageable on film. So I would say that's the biggest difference. As far as how does it feel, it's the same but different. You may be making smaller facial expressions and smaller movements and keeping it much more controlled, but the emotions that are inside you, they're all the same. The character's feeling what they're feeling, and you have to feel that. So that doesn't change. So if I'm on film and I'm saying, I hate you so much right now, that feels the same as if I'm on stage going, I hate you so much right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just different. So
what about the aspect of takes? You get a lot more breaks in your acting.
Oh,
when you're
well,
shooting,
yes, it's a very different animal as far as preparation. For some actors. For me, it's the same in that I need all my lines learned. I need to know what my character's motivation is, what I'm feeling moment to moment. And that'll change when I get on set with an actor, because an actor is going to bring their own energy, their own choices, and their own stuff. And then the director is going to have their vision. And so all of it's going to get changed on set, and sort of it becomes not improv, but organically a little different than whatever it is I've rehearsed, which is fine. Because actually on stage, even though you are aiming to give this exact same performance every single night, it's never exactly the same because you and the person you're in the scene with, you're real people and you've had whatever day you've had, and the energy is just a little different for whatever reason. And the audience's energy, especially on stage, you can feel that. And that's not always the same night after night. You can feel some audiences are more this or more that, and so you sort of have to respond to that on some level. So they're similar but different. I have been on set, I'm going to say this, with actors on a film set, and they haven't learned their lines. Mm-hmm. It's like we're getting ready to shoot and they're looking at their script trying to memorize it at the last minute. And I just think, how can you possibly have a strong character ready to go? How can you get lost in the scene? I don't understand that. And I know some actually have their lines behind the camera and they just read them. I mean, it's like soap opera stars sometimes need to do that, have cue cards and stuff.
Because their scripts change.
Yeah. If your performance at the end of the day is flawless in some way, I guess I don't really care what your process is, you know? But for me as an actor, I want to work with other actors who are, in my mind, professional and have done their homework and are coming to set ready to go. Mm-hmm. That's my thing.
Yes, as directors.
Nothing more annoying.
Me too. As a director, I'd be like terrified if my actors came on set going, "Oh my gosh, what scene are we doing?" I'd be like, "Oh, this is not going to go well." I mean, it would just phase me out.
Yeah, I imagine that there was smoke coming out of my ears when that happened on set for me. Yeah, I was fuming.
Fortunately, I pick my actors. I know a lot of them already, like Garden Party Massacre. I had worked. I hadn't worked with Andy, but I knew Andy really, really well. I had worked with Lee's before, Deadly Revisions, and I had worked with what's my leading lady? Noel was her last name. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, I'd worked with her before. I'd worked with. I hadn't acted with David, but I knew him really well. So, I mean, it's like David. I knew all these people, and he had a theater background. So anyone with a theater background, I know is going to come totally prepared because they treat it. You know, they know what they're doing.
And Matt had no lines.
And Matt had no lines, so I wasn't that worried, right? But, you know, so yeah. So, I mean, I knew I was totally comfortable with that. And anytime I cast again, yeah, I'm going to do my research on who's auditioning and look at their stuff and see who they've worked with, and all you have to do all that, I think.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, we are almost 2.5 hours into this, and
oh my gosh,
I know.
Todd, have you got any more? Todd, have you got any more questions? I've just got one more.
No, man, Greg's a good interview, man. We got to have him back on after this.
we translate that as he talks a lot.
For us, it's just like he does the work for us. We're good.
Yeah. And that's how I look at it. It's not that you talk a lot. It's just that we don't have to do this.
You don't have to pull teeth, and there's not a lot of dead air, right?
Yep, exactly. Well, so
my last question is: any plans on getting back into any like already happening plans to get back in the director's seat?
Already happening? I'm going to say no. I have a few projects out there that I'm juggling and I'm considering right now and trying to decide what I want to do, because there's a couple of different directions I want to go. Actually, I opened up this series, a web series I had written years ago that I had forgotten all about, and I reread it and I went, "This is great! I should do this." And I've never done a web series, or do they still call it a web series? Do they just call them series now? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's now in my a bee in my bonnet. There's a script I wrote for someone, and I floated myself out there as a possible director. But that project isn't, ready to move to the next step and go for funding and all that yet. So until that's ready to go, there won't be any, signing on a dotted line or anything. And then there's one other something that is also a possibility. So there are possibilities. I'm kind of itching to potentially get back into that. So it just depends. A lot of it depends on the project and then timing. If I'm involved as an actor or need to get something done as a writer, when I'm directing, I can't do anything else. Unless I'm acting in that particular piece, obviously. But otherwise, I can't be acting in somebody else's movie while I'm directing mine. That can't happen.
That's smart, though. That's using your
compartmentalizing.
Yeah. So that's that, and that's the biggest thing why I take my time between projects, because I wear those other hats, and I know that directing will take up everything, and I'll have to push everything to the side. I have to make sure I have the time and the space to do that. Because if I say yes to a project that I'm going to direct, I have to say no to everything else that comes my way during that time period.
Yeah, people don't realize in indie, directing means directing and producing and writing and doing other roles on the set. It's not like we turn up to direct and that's it.
Absolutely. Even if you're not the editor or the writer or whatnot, you're still involved in many ways in those things. I mean, my two features, I did not edit myself, but I sat with my editors and we go through it together. They do a rough cut for me. And then, because I've given that my script supervisor has said this take, this take, this take. So they know what to stitch together and create the Frankenstein monster. Right. And then we sit and, take it and turn it from, this dead thing into something where we go, it's alive.
Yes.
So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our conversation with Gregory Blair. So, Mr. Gregory, if people want to find you, where can they find you on social media or emails or whatever you want to give us?
I would just make it really easy and tell everybody go to www.gregoryblair.info. That's like sort of a website hub page. It'll have my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, I don't know, whatever else exists there. Everything but my TikTok, which I haven't gotten on there yet.
You're good.
I'm having trouble with the hosting website to edit it. But basically I think I'm the Gregory Blair, no matter what website you go to. So if you remember that, you'll find me.
Awesome. And then Itai, people can find if people want to find us, where do they go?
Well, they go to the email address above my head. They can find us on Facebook at the Straight Shooters Show, and also on Twitter under my Indie Productions, on Instagram, and on myindieproductions.com. They can find us on as we have a page for the show, and we also have a page for Todd and for myself, and even one for Gregory. we're all
true.
There. Yes. So yeah, we're everywhere. We're approachable. If you want to find us, you'll find us.
Absolutely.
Find us.
Thanks again, Gregory, for joining us on our.
Thank you, Gregory.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Really appreciate you coming on. And something I forgot to do at the beginning of the show that I'm going to do a few times here. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. That's the best way to help us out with the show. We thank you all once again. Yeah, brainwash. Like, share, comment, subscribe.
Like, share, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, I'm just gonna cut that out on his face and put that on
on repeat
after that. So thanks again, Gregory, for joining us. Thank you for watching us, and we'll see you all next time right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. This is Todd Braley for the Straight Shooters Show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.